In China, the power supply industry is known to the public as the electric tiger, referring to its monopoly of profiteering. In this episode, we'll explore the secrets of China's electricity supply industry. First, let's look at the mystery of China's electric tiger taking advantage of customers, a chronic issue. By the end of 2023, observant Chinese discovered that the government had gone even further, going so far as to alter meter speeds in order to overcharge customers. In 2016, China switched to smart meters on a large scale. After the switch, many residents found that their electricity bills crept up despite no change to their electricity usage. So, on the one hand, there was insufficient heating due to restrictions on electricity usage. On the other hand, they paid more for electricity. Here is a residential area in Henan province. The property management company made secret changes to the electricity meter system. Residents weren't happy about it, and both sides got into a big fight. We don't know the exact details, but in the conversation between the two sides, the property manager said, "There was nothing wrong with our meter system. We haven't taken advantage of you." But the residents weren't convinced and cited evidence one after another. With a poor attitude, the property company responded, "There is no problem with the meter system. It's useless to make a fuss here." A resident of Hefei, Anhui province, surnamed Liu, told overseas Chinese media that his family's electricity bill became more and more expensive and suspected that it had something to do with the smart meter. He said, "Since the meter was replaced, the electricity bill has gone up." He also revealed that because there was a shortage of electricity in China over the past few years, power cuts in residential neighborhoods were common, whether in hot summers or cold winters. He described it this way: "Air conditioning and heating are hardly ever turned on, and businesses are staggering their work schedules, but there is still not enough electricity, and the electricity bill is still expensive, as it has been for several years now. It's worse in winter. The neon lights in many buildings are off, and some streets even have street lights shut off, so it's pretty scary to work at night, and people have to rely on the moon for light." Chinese people have long been aware that there is something wrong with their electricity meters. As early as 2005, an online article entitled "Electricity Meters Being Sped Up" made smart meters a hot topic. The article said, 75% of the electricity meters in China have been deliberately sped up, that is, going faster than normal, with the largest deviation being 28% faster. And the reason is that some power companies have secretly asked the manufacturers to speed up the meters during the production. In August 2021, a story about thousands of people refusing to pay their electricity bills was circulating online. The story alleged that smart meters inherently consume a certain amount of electricity, which is passed on to the user. China's NetEase also published an article on December 22, 2023, stating that it was no longer a secret that electricity meters are going fast. The article cited a case where a netizen's actual electricity consumption of his home was 100 kilowatt hours, but the meter showed 135 kilowatt hours, and he had to pay the bill of 135 kilowatt hours. According to the case, the electricity company can buy 10 billion kilowatt hours of electricity but sell it for 13.5 billion kilowatt hours. This article was removed when we clicked on it a few days later. China's official media have been engaged in a prolonged process of dispelling rumors for more than a decade. Media outlets quoted experts saying that there was no chance of accelerating smart meters. The official Weibo and website of China's State Grid responded on February 22, 2013 and July 10, 2015, respectively, saying that the sped-up meters claim was a complete rumor. Smart meters were manufactured in strict compliance with national standards. Compared with mechanical meters, the main difference was that it added functions such as data communication, security key, data freezing and storage, self-test a meter status, etc. So, it could accommodate the functions related to tiered electricity prices better than ordinary meters. The accuracy of the meters was strictly enforced by national standards, and they could only be installed after passing a strict testing procedure. When encountering peak electricity consumption, meter reading cycle changes, and other factors, it was easy for customers to get the illusion that the power meter was running faster than normal. These rumor-dispelling statements also claim that smart meters were more sensitive than mechanical ones, and that subtle changes in household consumption could be recorded, which the old mechanical meters might not do. Those old meters have been running for a long time and age badly, so they could undermeter the amount of electricity. After the installation of smart meters, normal measurement would resume, so it might feel like the meter was running faster. On August 17, 2021, China's cyber police from a southern city announced that residents in many places were summoned, criticized, educated, and sentenced to administrative detention or fined by the public security authorities for spreading rumors online about people refusing to pay electricity bills. However, at the end of 2023, a piece of data offered credence to the speculation of smart meters being accelerated. On December 15, 2023, China's National Energy Administration and the National Bureau of Statistics simultaneously released electricity data for the first 11 months of the year, one on power generation and the other on power consumption. When comparing both sets of data, the power consumption exceeded the amount of power generated by nearly 300 billion watt-hours. The Bureau of Statistics released stats on power generated in China for the first 11 months of 2023. From January to November, the total volume was 8,073.2 billion kilowatt-hours, an increase of 4.8% year-on-year. The National Energy Administration published the total electricity consumption from January to November as being 8,367.8 billion kilowatt-hours, up 6.3% year-on-year. Subtracting the power generated from the power consumed resulted in an extra 294.6 billion kilowatt-hours of consumed electricity nationwide. If the electricity costs 50 cents in RMB, or about 7 cents a unit, 294.6 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity costs 147.3 billion RMB, or $20.6 billion. Here comes the question: why is the nation's total electricity consumption higher than what was generated? So far, none of the official Chinese media has explained this discrepancy. One netizen left a comment under the related data which read, "This is a sure thing. I used to have a mechanical meter installed in my home that was still functional. But since the Electricity Supply Bureau replaced it twice with smart meters, the meter would increase the reading by over 10% margin each time. After the first time, there was a difference of 10%. After the second replacement, there was another increase of 10%. The world has noticed that China's growing power supply crisis is interfering with people's lives, causing production cuts in factories, and even straining the global supply chain. What's going on? Doesn't China have a massive power grid? In September 2023, the Chinese government announced that China had built the world's largest electricity grid, and touted that for many years it had ranked first in the world in terms of the size of its hydroelectric, wind, photovoltaic, biomass, and nuclear power plants under construction. The Chinese Communist government has been trying to create an image of itself as a pioneer in the development of green energy in recent years. For example, in January 2024, the Chinese media reported that according to data released by the National Intellectual Property Administration, China had filed 126,400 global patent applications for solar cells, ranking first in the world. According to our statistics, Chinese companies have set world records in solar cells' photoelectric conversion efficiency 56 times since 2014. But in the past 3 years, the world has been shocked by China's power shortages. Previously, our channel reported on several major power shortages in China from 2021 to 2023. Here are some clips.
明天放假一天，为了配合供电部门错峰应电，这个夏季我们工业区会经常轮流休息，大家要有心理准备，这样也会导致你们的工资下降。不只是我们厂这样，整个城市都是一样的。
Although the peak of electricity consumption in summer has passed, many parts of China still experience shortages. Such prolonged power shortages have dealt a heavy blow to the economy. Chinese media reported that China's southern power grid had a power gap of about 10 million kilowatts in August, and the maximum coordinated load reached 110 million kilowatts. 2 southwestern provinces had to issue red warning signals because of power shortages exceeding 20%. Even the traffic lights have been shut down. It has severely affected people's lives. In some places, the electricity has been cut off several times a day, while in others, it has been off for more than 12 hours at a time.
就是一片漆黑，什么也看不见，因为全部停电了嘛。只有就车过来的时候能看见灯是亮的，再不然我骑电动车灯是亮的，剩下的都是一片漆黑。
On August 15th, the Sichuan provincial government asked all industrial power users in the province's 19 cities to stop production from August 15th to August 20th to ensure that residents have electricity. Foxconn Chengdu, for example, has restricted electricity from August 15th to the 20th, retaining only 20% of the electricity security load. The Foxconn Chengdu plant also manufactures and assembles Apple wearable devices, etc. According to China's official media, the 21st Century Business Herald, Chengdu, the capital of Sichuan province, has not only suspended the opening of central air conditioning in several office buildings since August 17th, advocating employees to work from home, but also disconnected the power supply of some office buildings due to the tight power load caused by high temperatures.
The situation in 2023 didn't get any better. In March 2023, Yunnan Province, a major hydropower province in southwest China, imposed power restrictions on a wide scale. At the time, China's Securities Times reported that a source from a major aluminum company in Yunnan said that it had been continuous local power restrictions since 2022, resulting in the business reducing production by 10% in the first round of restrictions, up to 20% in the second round, and up to 40% this time. The source said that some of his company's production in Yunnan had been closed and that the business was currently running at 60% of its capacity. This was a drought scene in May 2023. In July 2023, high temperatures in many parts of Sichuan province caused the electricity load to rise. Bloomberg reported at the time that aluminum smelters near Chengdu, the capital of Sichuan, were asked to reduce electricity consumption, leading to a sharp drop in aluminum production of about 50,000 tons. The website MySteel said that due to the extreme weather, the silicon producers in Sichuan province were also asked to cut production from July 3rd to 21st, 2023. According to the report, although the national aluminum production capacity was over 40 million tons and Sichuan only accounted for 1 million tons, the market was still worried. Local cement companies were also facing power cuts and shutdowns, etc. Why is it that the second largest economy in the world has such a shortage of electricity? We have observed many reasons. Here are two major ones. The first is that China's national power structure is problematic and the production system is vulnerable to extreme weather. The State Grid Corporation of China, SGCC, was established on December 29, 2002, as a state-authorized investment institution and a state holding company with the approval from the State Council. It mainly builds and operates China's power grid to supply electricity throughout the country. The procurement of smart meters is done through the tendering process conducted by the state grid. In China, the main sources of electricity in 2021 were 63% from coal thermal, hydro 15%, wind 8%, nuclear 5%, solar 4%, natural gas 3%, and 2% from other renewable energy. The 15% share of hydroelectricity doesn't seem much. That's because the hydroelectricity capacity turns out to be much lower than the Chinese government's plans and original projections. Since the founding of the CCP regime, this Red Party has shown its mania for building dams on rivers and hydroelectric plants. Currently, China has nearly 100,000 dams, the country with the most dams in the world. Hydropower generation is constrained by water resources, which varies very much from season to season. The amount of power produced during the rainy season can be twice as much as the dry season. When extreme weather hits, hydropower production becomes even more unstable. China has built at least 24 large hydropower stations on the Yangtze River. It has severely damaged the ecology of the affected areas. In recent springs and summers, the Yangtze River region has experienced unprecedented high temperatures, and the river was even cut off at one point. This was a scene in the summer of 2022.
The summer of 2022 in China has been so hot that it has caused many rivers to dry up, and the threat of a major power outage is looming, as it did last year. Even though a heat wave is hitting the world this time of year, Red China somehow seems to be experiencing even more severe heat. It's hard to tell from the official Chinese data, as Chinese netizens have found that official weather forecasts always limit the temperature to below 40 degrees Celsius. Internet users in Shanghai found that the app on their Apple iPhones showed that the highest temperature in Shanghai on August 5th, for example, had reached 50 degrees Celsius, with the city's Putuo district at 52 degrees Celsius and Jing'an district at 47 degrees Celsius. In China's annual flood season, there's an unexpected dry period due to high temperatures. China's Ministry of Water Resources Information Center predicts that from August 16th to the 21st, the country's rainfall will fall mainly in the northwest and central part of China. For example, there are heavy rains in the Yellow River, Haihe River, and Songhua River basins, and some rivers may experience super warning floods. However, the water level in the middle and lower reaches of Yangtze River and Dongting Lake, Poyang Lake, and Taihu Lake in the south will remain low, and the drought in the Yangtze River basin is developing rapidly and continues to develop. Due to the high temperature and no rainfall, the water level of the Yangtze River has fallen back over the past few days. On August 16th, the Yangtze River was exposed and cracked at the Chongqing section.
The water in the Yangtze River dried up. Without water, no electricity could be generated. The probability of extreme weather events in China will only increase in the coming decades, judging from the trend. Therefore, the development of hydropower needs to be accompanied by the development of coal power. Coal power has two major roles. The first is to provide a stable supply that ensures the bottom line, and the second is to regulate the peak period. Maintaining an appropriate proportion of hydropower and coal power is an inherent requirement for power security. However, in order to make a virtue signal to the world, the CCP has called for the gradual replacement of thermal power generation with new energy sources, thus adding uncertainty to the electricity supply. Bureaucrats around the world have treated the local coal industry roughly, causing all sorts of disruptions to coal-fired power generation. There are also the knock-on effects of international political events. One example is China's ban on Australian coal imports between 2020 and spring 2023. The lack of imported Australian coal caused China's major thermal power plants modified for Australian high-quality coal to be unable to produce, resulting in power shortages everywhere. Second, China's major electricity policy, namely transmission of electricity from the west to the east. With China's reform and opening up, the economy of the eastern coastal region has developed rapidly, but at the same time it faces a long-term power shortage. Therefore, the Chinese government has implemented a policy of sending electricity from the west to the east. The western part of China is rich in hydropower and coal resources, and its economy is relatively undeveloped. Coordinated by the central government, the hydropower and coal resources in the western region are exploited to generate electricity and then transmitted to the eastern region. The eastern jurisdictions such as Jiangsu Province, Zhejiang Province, and Shanghai are among the major beneficiaries of such power transmission. It sounds like a good policy on the surface, but more often than not, the Chinese Communist government and state corporations have managed to gradually do what goes against the intended purpose. Located upstream of the Yangtze River, Sichuan Province is one of the west-to-east hydropower bases. In the past 3 years, this province experienced power shortages. It's a major hydropower province, yet it suffered the worst power shortage nationwide. Data shows that from 1998 to 2020, Sichuan's cumulative external transmission of hydropower was more than trillions of units, equivalent to the total amount of electricity generated by 11 Three Gorges hydropower stations. In Sichuan's power structure, hydropower accounted for up to 70%, coal power 20% or so. The two disproportionate power sources are insufficient to ensure power security, resulting in power short supply. Once extreme weather hit, Sichuan hydropower generation fell by 50%. With too little coal power in supply, a power shortage became inevitable. Abandoned water refers to the amount of water that could have been used for power generation, but for various reasons failed to be utilized. The amount of electricity that could be produced by abandoned water is called abandoned water power. In 2020, abandoned water mainly occurred in Sichuan province. In Sichuan, it is mainly concentrated in the Dadu River mainstream, accounting for about 53% of the province's abandoned water power. The core reason why the Dadu River abandoned water power remains high is because the delivery channel is problematic. The 500 kilovolt transmission channel of Western Sichuan Hydropower Group to the load center is insufficient. The local grid is seriously jammed. When electricity cannot be delivered, even load centers such as Chengdu, the capital of Sichuan province, suffer from electricity shortages. At a time when Sichuan province was suffering from a local power shortage, it was still required to send a large amount of electricity to other jurisdictions according to the policy of the central government. At that time, the State Grid Sichuan Power Company claimed, as a national hydropower base, Sichuan, in accordance with the national strategy of sending electricity from the west to the east, the large-scale power stations within its territory are all coordinated by the state for development and consumption. Power is distributed according to a nationwide coordinated system with a fixed allocation ratio for the province and jurisdictions out of the province. It's not the case where Sichuan enjoys a priority in usage that surplus power is sent out. Sichuan province is an extreme case, and other provinces in the western region also share more or less similar experiences. The eastern part of the country has enjoyed the dividends of high-quality resources for its economic development. But by the time the western part of the country needs energy for its development, it is either faced with a power shortage or has to pay a higher price. The problem of electricity shortage in China reflects the worrisome management ability of the CCP. Its interest groups are rampant, its functional departments are perfunctory, local governments have their own agendas, and the central government has no flexibility to make adjustments. Such a system is in fact the biggest obstacle to China's development today, and it goes beyond the power shortage issue. As for the suspicion that the state grid overcharges customers through smart meters, it's understandable. After all, Chinese people know they are Chinese chives that can be harvested repeatedly. Since other authorities can reap the benefits, the power sector, the so-called electric tiger, shouldn't have too much of a psychological burden to harvest its customers.